What really happens to us when we die? Have you ever wondered what truly happens to our soul after we leave this world? These questions have accompanied humanity through the ages, and one of the most fascinating answers comes from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Imagine having a guide that describes each step of our journey after death. This ancient book, full of wisdom, introduces us to the concept of Bardo, an intermediate state between life and rebirth. Instead of seeing death as a frightening end, we learn that it is a transition, a passage filled with lessons and opportunities for spiritual growth. In this video, we will explore together the three main stages of the Bardo Thodol. Chikhai Bardo, where the mind encounters the clear light at the moment of death. Chonyi Bardo, the phase of intense visions and sensations right after death. And Sidpa'i Bardo, the final stage that guides us toward rebirth. These stages are not merely descriptions of a post-life journey. They offer us important lessons for living more fully and consciously today. By understanding each phase, we are invited to reflect on our choices, attitudes, and how we prepare for the inevitable moment of the end. Join us on this journey through the world of Tibetan teachings. Discover how the lessons of the Bardo Thodol can transform our view on life and death, bringing more serenity and purpose to our path. Let's uncover these ancient mysteries together and learn how to apply this wisdom in our daily lives. The word Bardo might seem complicated, but it helps us understand what happens after death. In Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo is a state between life and death, and also between death and the next rebirth. It's not just about what comes after dying, but also about how we live and prepare for that moment. The word Bardo comes from Sanskrit and means between, or in the middle. Imagine a hallway that connects two rooms, one where we are alive and another where we are reborn. This hallway is the Bardo, a passage filled with experiences and lessons. Understanding the Bardo means realizing that death is not a definitive end, but a transition filled with meaning and an opportunity to learn and grow spiritually. Knowing about the Bardo is not only useful for those near death, it teaches us to live better today. When we think about this transition, we are encouraged to live with more purpose, to cultivate kindness, and to prepare our minds to face the unknown with calm. This involves not only meditations or rituals, but also practicing compassion, detachment, and wisdom in our daily lives. These values make life lighter and prepare our minds for what comes next. By understanding the Bardo, we see that every action we take has an impact. Every choice made with care and kindness helps create a smoother path for our future journey. This perspective changes the way we face daily challenges. We begin to value each moment, knowing that living with consciousness and love prepares us for a more harmonious encounter with the unknown. Thinking about the Bardo isn't just about death, it's about living fully. Knowing that life is a passage to something greater, we can better appreciate the present. This idea connects us to a larger cycle of existence, where every step counts and every act of kindness carries a deeper meaning. By learning about the Bardo and preparing for this journey, we create a strong foundation to face what lies ahead. We live more lightly, more wisely, and with the certainty that as long as we remain open to learning and change, we will always be ready for the next stage of our existence. Upon reaching the end of life, the first stage of the Bardo, called Chikhai Bardo, marks a very special and significant moment. This is the instant of death itself, when the body ceases to exist and the mind begins to enter a new state. At the moment of death, the mind separates from the physical body. Imagine that gradually, you begin to feel your body dissolving, as if it were dissolving into light. This is the beginning of Chikhai Bardo. During this phase, many texts speak of the experience of the clear light, a pure and bright light that emerges when we leave the body. This clear light is not just a visual phenomenon, it represents a moment of great opportunity. It is believed that if a person recognizes this light and surrenders to it with calm and wisdom, there is a chance to achieve liberation, a state of peace and enlightenment that does not require rebirth. It's a bit like finding a treasure after a long journey. When we see the clear light, we stand before a door that may lead to freedom from the cycle of reincarnation. However, recognizing the light is not easy. For many people, this moment can be confusing and frightening, especially if they are not prepared. That's why it's important to cultivate calm and understanding while we are alive. Practices such as meditation and reflecting on the impermanence of life help prepare the mind for this encounter with the clear light. Preparation during life creates a kind of mental map that can guide the soul when it finds itself at this threshold. During the Chikhai Bardo, the experience of the clear light is followed by the gradual disappearance of all sensations and perceptions linked to the physical body. Everything we know dissolves, and the individual enters a state of pure consciousness. This process is seen as a moment of great purity, where all illusions and attachments of the material world dissolve. For many Tibetan traditions, it is fundamental that the living understand and respect this stage. Families and monks offer prayers and rituals to help the deceased recognize and accept the clear light when it presents itself. These practices aim to make the transition less lonely and more serene. The phase of Chikhai Bardo teaches us something very valuable: the importance of living with an awareness of death. By knowing that one day we will encounter this light, we can cultivate tranquility and wisdom in our daily lives. This prepares us not only for the moment of death, but also helps us to live more fully and balanced. After the initial moment of death and the experience of the clear light, the journey continues into the second stage, known as Chonyi Bardo. During this period, the mind, now separated from the body, goes through a series of visions and sensations that reflect both its past actions and its thoughts and emotions. In Chonyi Bardo, experiences become more vivid and complex. Consciousness may see images, feel intense emotions, and hear sounds that seem real, but are actually manifestations of the mind itself. These visions do not come from nowhere. They are in a way a mirror of what we carry within us: memories, fears, or unresolved desires. Imagine walking through a place where everything you see is made up of parts of your own life: happy, sad, frightening, or painful moments. These visions can be both beautiful and challenging. On one hand, comforting or inspiring scenes may appear, evoking feelings of love and peace. On the other hand, there is the possibility of encountering frightening images that reflect deep fears or regrets. The reason for this spectacle of visions is that the state of Chonyi Bardo is highly sensitive to the individual's mind. Everything that was not resolved or overcome in life can resurface, offering the opportunity to face them consciously. If the person knows how to remain calm and recall spiritual teachings and practices, they can better deal with these experiences, learning from them instead of being dominated by fear. During Chonyi Bardo, consciousness is in a state of great openness, but also of great uncertainty. The visions may seem real, but they are like vivid dreams that help us reflect on our life. For many, this stage is a test of the spiritual and emotional preparation made while they were alive. The teachings of the Tibetan Book of the Dead advise that when facing these visions, it is important to maintain clarity and compassion. Recognizing that they are projections of one's own mind helps to avoid panic and confusion. This phase also shows the importance of cultivating a serene and kind mind while still living, as this influences how we will handle the visions in the Bardo. Therefore, Chonyi Bardo is not just a terrifying or chaotic passage, but also an opportunity for learning and purification. By facing the visions with courage and wisdom, the person prepares for the final stage of the journey, carrying with them the valuable lessons found along the way. After facing the visions and sensations of Chonyi Bardo, the journey reaches its third and final phase, Sidpa'i Bardo. This stage marks the final transition before rebirth, where consciousness prepares to return to a new life. In Sidpa'i Bardo, the mind has already gone through the intense experiences of the previous stages and begins to feel the pull of the next rebirth. It's as if, while walking through a desert after a long journey, one sees in the distance an oasis that represents a new beginning. The mind senses signs and impressions of what is to come, shaped by the actions and emotions accumulated throughout life. At this stage, visions and sensations gradually diminish, giving way to a feeling of seeking and desire. Consciousness experiences a strong attraction to certain worlds or forms of existence based on karma, which are the actions and choices made in past lives and the current one. These impressions serve as a compass, indicating the type of rebirth the person may experience. The influence of karma is fundamental here. Throughout life, our actions plant seeds that, in Sidpa'i Bardo, germinate and show possible paths for the new birth. If the person has cultivated virtues like compassion, honesty, and wisdom, these qualities guide consciousness toward a more harmonious rebirth. On the other hand, negative patterns may lead to more challenging experiences in the future. During this phase, the preparation made during life becomes even more important. Those who have dedicated themselves to spiritual practices and developed a clear and compassionate mind tend to recognize these impressions and consciously direct their journey. This ability to discern between the different possibilities of rebirth can directly influence the choice of a more beneficial path for the soul. Sidpa'i Bardo also reminds us of the continuous nature of the cycle of existence. Even though we are in the last stage before being reborn, the process is not necessarily an end, but a new beginning. This understanding reinforces the idea that life and death are parts of a continuous cycle, interconnected and full of potential for growth and learning. By understanding Sidpa'i Bardo, we are encouraged to live in such a way that our actions plant positive seeds for the future. This means cultivating attitudes and behaviors that not only benefit our present, but also prepare fertile ground for what is to come. The final phase of the Bardo is, therefore, an invitation to reflect on our choices and their impact on the cycle of rebirth, motivating us to always seek the best path for our spiritual evolution. Understanding the three stages of the Bardo Thodol, Chikhai, Chonyi, and Sidpa'i, is not merely a lesson about what happens after death, but also a guide to living better here and now. By reflecting on these phases, we can extract valuable lessons for our daily lives. First, the awareness of impermanence, reinforced by the idea of Bardo, teaches us to value each moment. Knowing that life is a corridor between different states invites us to live with more purpose and presence. Every action carries weight and repercussions, not only in the immediate future, but also in the spiritual journey that follows death. Secondly, this wisdom motivates us to cultivate positive qualities. The practice of compassion, patience, and detachment becomes even more significant in the face of the prospect of facing the unknown. These virtues help shape our minds to deal with fears and challenges, both in everyday life and in the experiences that may arise in the Bardo. Living with kindness and awareness not only improves our relationships here, but also builds a smoother path for the transition that will come after death. Furthermore, reflecting on the Bardo encourages us to prepare our minds for the future. This means investing in self-knowledge and spiritual practices that promote serenity. Meditation, for example, is a tool that helps calm the mind and cultivate clarity, essential skills for facing the stages of the Bardo with tranquility. The lessons of the Bardo Thodol also remind us of the interconnection between life and death. We cannot see death as an absolute end, but as part of a larger cycle. This perspective transforms fear into curiosity and invites us to explore life with more intensity and respect. By understanding that each moment is precious and that our actions have lasting consequences, we are inspired to make wiser, more compassionate choices. Finally, reflecting on the Bardo serves as an invitation to action. Thinking about death motivates us to live fully, cultivate good deeds, and keep our minds open to change. This allows us to face the future with confidence, knowing that by living consciously, we are building a more harmonious path not only for ourselves, but for everyone around us. Throughout this journey through the teachings of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, we have explored the three stages of the Bardo Thodol, Chikhai, Chonyi, and Sidpa'i. Each stage offered us a unique vision of what happens after death, but also brought profound lessons for our everyday life. First, we understood that the Bardo is not just about the end of life, but about the transition and the intermediate states that our consciousness traverses. With this, we learned to face death not as a terrifying end, but as part of a continuous cycle of rebirth and learning. This perspective frees us from the fear of the unknown and encourages us to live with more purpose and serenity. We reviewed Chikhai Bardo, the moment of death, where the mind encounters the clear light, an opportunity to achieve enlightenment and liberation. This stage teaches us the importance of cultivating calm and wisdom while we are alive, so that we can recognize and accept the light when it presents itself. Next, we went through Chonyi Bardo, the phase of visions and sensations. Here we saw how our internal experiences reflect our actions and feelings, offering an opportunity to confront fears and correct mistakes. This part of the journey emphasizes the importance of living in an integral and conscious manner, as everything we are and do manifests in this intermediate state. Finally, we explored Sidpa'i Bardo, the stage that leads to rebirth. In this phase, the influence of karma and the preparation we have made throughout life determine the opportunities and challenges of the next cycle. Understanding this stage reinforces the idea that our choices have lasting consequences, not only for our own life but for our entire spiritual journey. These teachings invite us to live with more awareness, love, and responsibility. They encourage us to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and serenity, not only to face death but to transform our daily life. By understanding the cycle of existence, we can appreciate every moment, knowing that our actions build the path we will walk and that every small act of kindness has a greater impact than we imagine. In summary, the wisdom of the Bardo Thodol provides us with a broader view of life and death, inspiring us to live fully, with an open heart and a mind prepared for the transition. May we carry these teachings with us, living consciously and leaving a legacy of light and compassion for the future.